No, thank you very much. And let me take this opportunity to greet the people of Zimbabwe and wish them the best in 2026 in their endeavors. I know that life is not easy for the majority of Zimbabwean people. The majority of our people are living below the poverty datum line, and they are in economic stress. Stress coming out of the requirements for school fees, for general upkeep of the people. But we have good news for the people of Zimbabwe, and the good news is that the party, the MDC, is on the revival. Now, as we were going towards the end of last year, it was clear that the MDC was the only voice of reason within the opposition in this country. It had fought the delimitation battle before the 2023 elections, and it was a lonely battle. Because some of the members of the opposition actually supported the delimitation to the extent of supplying lawyers to thwart the MDC efforts to stop the delimitation. And then at the beginning of 2025, the MDC, through a press conference, kick-started the fight against the so-called 2030 agenda, which is an agenda to amend the constitution. The MDC was fighting against that agenda on the basis that, one, it was uncalled for, two, it amounts to desecration of our constitution. Number three, that it will cement the impression that the international community has of us as a pariah state, and that therefore it was not worth it. The problems that Zimbabweans find themselves in, the socio-political and economic conundrum that Zimbabweans find themselves in, do not require the change of the constitution to resolve them. Zimbabweans want industry, they want equal opportunity to equal access to opportunity, equal access to education, and so on. That's what they need. So the MDC was fighting that, and it was a lone battle until, of course, on the 12th of November, a group came here and raided the Emirati house. They claimed that they had the support of the state. In their various publications, especially on social media, in the social media groups, they said that they had the support of the state. But it was clear that this was intended to disturb us. And it did disturb the MDC. The rhythm that we had built, the rapport that we had developed with the masses, the sudden confidence that our people were getting as a result of this righteous fight was disturbed. Fortunately, we were able to reclaim the Emirati house, and we are now here. And I am particularly happy that we were able to reclaim it without any loss of life, without any injury, without even any contact. That is how well our security dealt with this issue. And I hope that we have found an end to that. And we have carried over from where we left, and we are preaching the gospel of unity. The people of Zimbabwe want the unity of purpose for all progressive forces. And they've been making this call silently, and now the calls are going louder and louder and louder. And the MDC welcomes the unity of purpose for all progressive forces. But of course, this is not forced unity. Those who don't want to unite with anyone are free not to unite. I have seen that...
which are these groups specifically?
Well, we have had Advocate Chamisa, for example, that he does not want to unite with other people. It is right. And as I said the other time, I don't care what Chamisa says. I care what the people of Zimbabwe say. I don't care what other political leaders will say. If it is contrary to what the people of Zimbabwe are saying. The people of Zimbabwe in rural areas, in combis, in supermarkets, when you meet them, they are talking about this issue of unity. And by the way, they are the bosses, they are the masters of all the politicians, including President Mnangagwa himself. So that is what they are saying for the opposition. And that is what we, as the MDC, care about. And we have also said, as the MDC, that we are opening our doors to the prodigal sons and daughters who left the movement and who want to come back. And a few have come back, a few have signified that they want to come back. There are a few, of course, the important ones, who want to know what positions they are going to hold before they come. That's not how we do things. We want people to come, no questions asked, no demands made. And we carry on with the people's struggle. The aim of the MDC is to take over governmental power through peaceful, democratic, and constitutional means, govern differently and change the lives of the people of Zimbabwe for the better. Our people are wallowing in abject poverty. There is unemployment. There is inequality in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has become a country of two nations. You have the extremely rich people, and you have the extremely poor people. The middle class has disappeared. Whereas a few years ago, teachers, nurses were in the middle class. They are no longer in the middle class. They are now in the poor class. The conditions of service of our civil servants leave a lot to be desired. The conditions of our liberation fighters are appalling. I listened to a story, a documentary. I watched a documentary of the people who bombed the Salisbury petrol tanks. I think it was in 1979 or thereabout. One of them is unable to afford the medical bills and has been reduced to a welfare case. People are donating $10, $1 to take care of that comrade. And that is unacceptable. And yet we have people dishing out cars day in, day out, who never saw the war, who never saw how Zimbabwe was liberated. And the real heroes are wallowing in poverty and misery. And for us, that is unacceptable.
Maybe on that, Senator Mwonzora, people also, some of your colleagues in the opposition, they are claiming that we have also received some gift from ZANU-PF when you were the leader of the opposition.
Well, first of all, every member of parliament receives something by being member of parliament. They receive a salary from the government. And by the way, the government is ZANU-PF run, right? So the members of parliament were receiving salaries. Is that a bribe? Is that a gift? And the members of parliament are given certain benefits. Benefits of housing, benefits of transport. Every MP gets a car. Is that a gift from ZANU-PF? And more importantly, if a person is a leader of the opposition, they have a certain status within parliament. They have a certain grade within parliament. And the grade of the leader of the opposition is the same as the grade of the government chief whip and the president of the chiefs. So during my time, it was the same conditions as Mr. Togarepi and Chief Charumbira. And it was the same as the benefits of a minister of state, formerly called governors. Those are benefits that go with the grade. They are not gifts that we received. In fact, I'm not the first person to receive income more than others by virtue of my seniority, by virtue of my responsibility. It's like a headmaster gets more money than the other teachers, doesn't he? Because he is the headmaster. And a leader of the opposition gets more than the opposition members because he is the leader. The first person to be leader of opposition was Gibson Sibanda. He received the same benefits. Then this second one is Thokozani Kupe, by virtue of being leader of the opposition, received the same benefits. And then myself. But people make such a big issue that Mr. Mwonzora got an additional car, an additional Mercedes-Benz.
There's also impression that you received a farm.
Where? I started farming, say, in 1998. And I happen to be a good farmer, actually. I started farming in 1998. and I have gone into this business, and it is proving to be a lucrative business. I do cropping, I do livestock, and so on. At any rate, there should not be stigmatization for people who get land. Land does not belong to ZANU-PF. It was a big mistake when the opposition refused land. It was a big mistake because this land does not belong to ZANU-PF. I am a Tangwena. We are the chiefs in Nyanga. And if I get land in Nyanga, I am getting land in the land of my fathers, in the land of my forefathers. Why should I even worry about what people say about that? But look, how has that affected my performance as a member of the opposition? I have fought delimitation. I am fighting the 2030 agenda. No one is doing that. And by the way, some of the leaders of the opposition right now were ministers in the government of national unity. They got farms. If you go to Bronsbury, which is apparently in Nyanga, if you go to Bronsbury to your left side, if you are coming from Harare, there are a lot of pieces of land that are owned by members who are members of the opposition now, that they got during the inclusive government.
Who are they exactly?
Well, I'm not like them. I'm not like them, so you may have to find out on your own. But they are there, and they have received. Some people got loans from the Reserve Bank in 2000 during the inclusive government, and they bought trucks using those loans. Nobody's saying anything about that because that's their economic activity. But any implication that we were bribed is wrong. These are clean conditions of service, and whoever replaced me as leader of the opposition gets the same.
Maybe we are still there. Maybe how are you going to make sure, or are there any guidelines, guiding principles which can defend the 2030 agenda? Because you're part of the constitution making process. Are there any guidelines which guides how to monitor or the processes which are useful in the 2030 agenda?
Okay, so first of all, it is important to conscientize the people of Zimbabwe about what is happening to their constitution. And in order for us to do that, we need to have a few facts, to get a few facts right. The first one is whether there is going to be a bill, a constitutional bill, amendment bill. And if that bill is there, what does it say? Now, I'm saying this because the Minister of Justice, in one of the interviews, implied that they could change the constitution using parliament, the way they did in the Malaba case. Now, that is very wrong. You cannot amend the constitution without going to referendum. This is because if you go to the constitution, the areas that talk about term limits are two areas. The first one is section 90 to section 95. Section 90 says the president must preserve the constitution. Section 91 says no one must serve more than 2 terms. And Section 95 says a term shall be 5 years, co-terminus with the term of parliament, meaning they have to go together. The constitution doesn't end there. So Ministers Yambi and Kambane are saying, if we change in 95 to say a term is now 7 years, President Mnangagwa would still have served only 2 terms. One for 5 years and one for 7 years, to make them 2. That's their reasoning. But their reasoning would be sensible if the constitution ended there. But the constitution doesn't end there. In section 328 of the constitution, we start by defining what a term limit clause is. And we say a term limit clause is a clause that lengthens the period of time that a person is holding office. So if you are changing from 5 years to 7 years, you are lengthening the period of time. And the same section goes on to say, if you are amending the Bill of Rights, you have to go to referendum. It then goes on to say that if you are amending the term limit clause, you amend it as if it was in the Bill of Rights, i.e. via referendum. And it then goes on to say that even if the people vote yes in the referendum, the extension shall not benefit the incumbent. That is section 328 subsection 7. And then it says in that section that if you want to amend me, if you want to amend that section, you amend me as if I am in the Bill of Rights, i.e. via referendum. So in this particular case, and we are anxious to see the bill, there must be provision for 2 referendums. One referendum with a simple referendum question: should we extend the term of president from 5 years to 7 years? Yes, no. Because when you are voting yes or no in the referendum, you are answering a question. You are saying no to something or yes to something. So there should be a referendum question. And the referendum question is, should we extend or not? So if the people vote yes, then there is another headroom. There needs to be another referendum on whether the incumbent, in this case President Mnangagwa, must benefit. So there is the second referendum question: should Emmerson Mnangagwa benefit or not? Yes or no? So there will be 2 referendums, and these 2 referendums cannot be within 6 months of each other in terms of the constitution, to allow a cooling off period. That was our thinking as the drafters. So a lot depends on what the bill is going to say. If it provides for that, then we will wait to wage our fight within the electorate. The electorate have to decide. The people of Zimbabwe have to decide whether they want an extension of term or not.
It will not be late for you to act when they act. How are you going to defend it?
Well, first of all, what is important is we need to know what we are acting against. So we must see the bill. If the bill comes, we need to see it. And when we see the bill, we see whether it accords with the Constitution. Because the Constitution doesn't prevent amendments. It says amendments must be done in a particular way. Now, in the Constitution, we have a concept that we introduced, which is called the sovereignty of the people. It is the right of the people of Zimbabwe to decide whether they give a president an extension or not, and whether they particularly give this president an extension. It's up to the people of Zimbabwe. We will be at war, in the figurative sense, with the government or with whoever, if the sovereignty of the people, the right of the people to decide is compromised. We will not accept that. But if they say, we are asking for amendments, can the people of Zimbabwe decide? Then the battlefield will be the people of Zimbabwe. And that's all we want, that people of Zimbabwe must decide. But there is one thing that some people within ZANU-PF who are advocating for this have not looked at. For example, what if people vote yes in the first referendum and vote no in the second referendum? What then that means is that you have extended the term limit for someone else, for the successor, whoever it is going to be. So, as the MDC, on the facts that we have, we are against the extension of the term of the president. We think the president must serve his 2 terms, and someone else takes over.
But we have seen that some of your former colleagues, they are saying that 2030 agenda is just a sideshow, or there is no constitution to talk about.
Well, that is specifically what Chamisa said, and I don't know what he was trying to say. Advocate Chamisa was the organizing secretary of the MDC during the constitution making process, and he did second people to go to Kopak to do the outreach In fact, I came to him to get the names of people to constitute the outreach teams. And after that, he was a member of the cabinet that approved the constitutional bill that then came to Parliament. And after that, myself, himself, and other people campaigned for a yes vote. What was he campaigning for? What was he saying yes to? What was he urging people to say yes to? And apparently there is a very famous quotation by Nelson Chamisa during the constitution making process, and I want to quote him verbatim. And he says, ZANU-PF dribbled us during the outreach. We have now dribbled past them during drafting. End of quote. What was he dribbling? What dribbling was he talking about? So sometimes politicians get carried away. When they dislike someone or something, they dislike everything that person is associated with. There is a constitution, Advocate Chamisa, to defend, and the constitution is under threat. So maybe the question is, if you say there's no constitution to defend, that means therefore that you are for 2030. If Advocate Chamisa is for 2030, it is his democratic right. We are against 2030. The people of Zimbabwe are against 2030. And when we are faced with this constitution moment as a country, it is not an opportunity to chain hate language against one another, to engage in cheap propaganda, to downgrade, to degrade other people. That's not the opportunity. That's not what we should be like. In fact, I have liberty to say it to him because he's a fellow lawyer like me. There is what we call courtesy at law. Even if you differ with the other lawyer, when you are having a bitter argument in court, you still address them in a courteous way. So even if you differ politically with any other person, you don't describe them as vomit. You don't use degrading terms against one another. It's out of fashion. It's anachronistic. But anyway, coming to the substance, it's up to him if he wants to support 2030. After all, they supported delimitation. If they want to carry on and support ZANU-PF again in 2030, it's up to them. But we are against 2030. At least the National Council of the MDC has said it is against 2030.
But they claim that MDC is now dead and you went to bed with the ZANU-PF. How would you respond to this?
Well, that is cheap propaganda, isn't it? And it is said by people who themselves have dealings with the ZANU-PF. I have no dealings with the ZANU-PF. First of all, I have said to those, to my detractors, anybody with evidence, a shred of evidence that I was bought with ZANU-PF by ZANU-PF, I have 10,000 cash to give them. I said it in 2022. This is 2026. Zimbabweans are a broke lot, and no one has claimed that money. Right? It is there. And this is cheap propaganda. You know, in opposition, when we want to do down a competitor, it is fashion to say they are ZANU-PF. After all, if you look in the social media right now, the same allegations are being raised against Advocate Chamisa. People are saying that when he left the CCC, he was trying to create a two-thirds majority for ZANU-PF. And they go on to say that there was method in the madness. I don't know how far true it is, but it's an allegation that people always put out there. And they also say that he is supporting 2030, and he came to disturb the project that Timber has started. I don't know whether that is true or not, but this is what you see floating in the media. So it is probably true, probably false. We don't know. But so it is unreliable. And for him to say that we were bought by ZANU-PF, that is wrong. He was beaten in court by Mr. Mashawira. We took the Harvester House using 2 people and a bit of some intelligence of our own. And we were able to keep it. And after that, we fought against the limitation. We fought against the 23rd agenda. I don't know what he's doing about that.
Yeah, maybe in closing, are you going to see yourself and other political actors, especially in the opposition, uniting for one purpose?
Well, if we could work together during the government of national unity with the ZANU-PF, which had made that 300 of our youngsters here at the MDC, what can prevent me speaking to Komichi, speaking to Chamisa, speaking to Mwonzora, speaking to these leaders, Werushme Ngobe, Linda Masarira, and so on? We are from one family. After all, we come from the same source, which is the original MDC. It is very easy for us to go back to the founding principles of our party. But any unity that we are going to have is going to be predicated on values of mutual respect and the values of democracy and constitutionalism. And when you come together, you may be forced to sponsor one candidate. There must be a mechanism of how to choose that candidate, which is objective and which is verifiable by the people of Zimbabwe. We are not going to beg anybody to unite with us, but we are very, very prepared to heed the call of the people of Zimbabwe and unite. I am meeting one of the leaders of a group called the Restoration. It's a breakaway group from the MDC. They are coming on Friday. His name is Mr. Kadewere. I'm going to meet him. I am prepared to meet any leader, and I'm going to call them and discuss with them. But we are not going to force anyone. We are not begging anyone. And if it is not strategically sensible for people to come and unite with us, then it is up to them.
Maybe have you ever met with maybe the current opposition leader, Mr. Tshabangu?
Of course, I've met Tshabangu. I met Tshabangu before and after he became leader of the opposition. I met Tshabangu at the ZCTU when he was one of my students in a program called the Paralegal. Right, I think it was in 1992 or somewhere there. He was a member of the Hotel and Catering Workers Union. It is not true that Tshabangu came from nowhere. And I then met him at the formation of the MDC. He was there. He became our chairperson, MDC chairperson for Mat North Province. He then went away with BT. In I think 2014, they went away after the Mandela rebellion, so he was in the PDP. And when Advocate Chamisa called them back in Gweru at the Gweru Congress, he called Tendai BT, he called Tshabangu back, and he joined them. And I do know that Tshabangu did sign for the CCC candidates in the by-election in 2022. And then, of course, what happened in their party happened in their party.
How did you know that he signed for them in 2022? That there was CCC and MDC. How did you know that?
You don't know that when you are contesting in an election, during the nomination court, you are allowed to inspect the papers of the other candidates. In other words, what you do before the sitting of the nomination court, you actually are allowed to request the file to see whether your opponent is validly nominated or not. And if he is not validly nominated, you are allowed to raise the objection before the nomination court and he may be disqualified. I actually did that once in Masvingo. I was the election agent for Mayor Chayamiti, the late Mayor Chayamiti. And I inspected the documents of the other candidate, Mr. Shumba. And I noticed that there was no O-level certificate that was attached to the papers. And that time the law said for you to be executive mayor, you must have an O-level certificate. And it was not there. We kept quiet, until 5 minutes to go. And then I stood up and said, these papers are not in order. They tried and tried and tried. He was disqualified. So you are allowed to inspect. Yes, we inspected the files for the Triple C candidates, and we found that the person who had signed for some of them, most of them was Tshabangu. And then, of course, I saw him when he was in parliament, when he was leader of the opposition. I talked to him. I have talked to him about the 2030, in particular what their attitude is going to be. That was sometime last year, I think, 2023. I talked to him about that, and he had given me the impression that they were against it. They were against amendment of the Constitution. They were for something else different. So yes, I have talked to him.